All right, so where did we leave off?
We finished. Did we finish Plank 3 or
We're
were
going
we
to say
going
it's finished because it's stupid.
Okay. Yes.
Of course, by that logic, we're finished with all of them.
Well, I mean, we presume that we are finished. Yes.
Well, okay, so let's pretend that I haven't already read all of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Plank 4.
All right, you're going to want to set your drink down. Actually, I was, drinking and reading this when I started coughing, so
That's understandable. I mean,
you can tell it's a really rough one.
yeah.
So the Employ Young Americans Now Act.
Oh, that sounds ominous. What does it say?
Very little about the state of No, it says everything about the state of humanity. So the cost is going to be $5.5 billion over 2 years. Can they not do figures past 2 decimal points?
Wait. Okay, hold on a second. The cost is going to be how much?
$5.5 billion over 2 years.
So, say $3 billion a year.
Yeah.
Why is that number so much less than the college number? Aren't the same number? Aren't we talking about the same demographic?
Well,
and now we're talking about paying them to live, which costs like $10,000 a year. So the actual price is more like $300 billion a year, I would bet.
Well,
so they're off only by a factor of 100, which is not that bad for government statistics.
actually, so this one, it seems like they're deliberately running a facade with the numbers. Listen to this.
No,
I mean, like not only deliberately, but it's like it's right there, and just looking at it, you're like, wait, that doesn't help at all.
Socialists massage numbers to their own advantage? No, they would never do that.
Much as I hate to admit it, it still comes as a shock when I realize that they are capable of doing math.
The funny thing is that
At least basic addition and subtraction.
I was just kind of making I was trying to make a more of a Marx reference. Marx thought that running a company was just doing math, basic math. And that's part of the reason why he was so angry at factory owners for getting paid so much more. Because all they really had to do was add, subtract, multiply, and divide.
Well, there's a lot of people that I work with that I wish could do that, and they can't, so maybe he's not giving it enough credit.
I suppose that's possible. So how are they massaging the numbers?
Well, it's not just massaging. It's weird. Just $5.5 billion over 2 years. I feel like that's deliberately trying to be confusing, and here's why. The funding for that is going to come from closing the carried interest loophole.
The what?
I looked it up when I first read this. I forgot what it was, though. I do remember that it was really silly. We might have to look at that in a minute. But the revenue that they expect to get from this is $15.6 billion over 10 years. Now, just do that mental math in your head.
10 over 2, 5. 15 over 5.
No, 15 over 10.
No. I'm comparing the ratios.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm saying is that they don't make enough money with it.
Well, they make about half of what they need over 10 years.
Assuming that what they need doesn't rise over time.
Yeah.
Which it will,
because it always does.
My God, that's how incentives work.
All right, so we'll gloss over the carried interest loophole unless you feel like looking that up real quick.
Well, I'm looking it up. I'm on Wikipedia right now. Carry in finance is a share of the profits of an investment or investment fund that is paid to the investment manager in excess of the amount the manager contributes to the partnership. It is a performance fee that...
Oh, God.
It is a performance fee that rewards the manager for enhancing performance. They're going to remove the performance fee that rewards the manager for enhancing performance? from investments, from private equity, and from hedge funds. Oh my God, they're doing it to hedge funds. So they're gonna fuck hedge funds over, so that you're stuck with Social Security, and then they're gonna fuck Social Security over.
Where's everyone's IRAs gonna be?
Dead.
So basically, they're going to destroy everyone's retirements just so they can say that they made $3 billion 1 year.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, And they won't even make that because those fees will go away once they're taxed.
Yeah.
They'll come up with something else, because those fees are paid in addition to the manager's, quote unquote contribution. So then they'll just say that his contribution is higher than it actually is. It's a shell game.
It's something darker than a shell game.
Well,
How do you get
yes,
darker
it
than a
does.
shell game? But you do.
It's like 3-card Monty where 1 card's a gun.
I don't know. It seems more like 3-card Monty where 3 cards are a gun.
Well, 2 cards look like cards and 1 card looks like a gun, and the guy keeps pointing at the gun and smiling at you.
No, well, I mean, I think we're good on that one.
I think we've got it.
Shall we walk the next plank?
Well, I mean, the fact that the math doesn't even add up for it is already pretty damning.
All right.
We're gonna spend $3 billion a year. We're gonna make $2 billion a year. I hate to say this, but subtraction gives me some information about this that suggests that this will not be revenue neutral. I mean, hell, it's only $1 billion a year. They can get that out of a rounding error.
Yeah. You just take that from the Social Security fund.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right, plank 5.
This one doesn't. Okay. I'm just gonna read it to you and let you make the same discovery.
Okay.
So the plan is to offer 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave.
All workers?
It just says offer 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave.
Per year?
Yes, per year. I would assume it's per year.
12 weeks.
12 weeks, yeah.
Per year.
As in 75% of the year is not family and medical leave.
Well, know what that... 12 weeks paid leave?
Paid family and medical leave.
12 weeks.
The tens unit is a 1, and the ones unit is a 2.
So what do they think this is going to do to GDP?
Well, if they knew that, then they don't care. I don't know how else to put it. They cannot possibly care.
But that's... So what they're trying to do... I don't even think France has that much paid leave mandatory. I think it's like 4 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, well,
I could be wrong.
Well, in France, you can live off of Social Security pretty much your whole life.
Well, for now.
For now, yeah. I mean, that well
Yeah,
is
right
going
now
to run
you
dry real quick.
Yeah, that well is... there's not a lot.
But if you're
like that
actually
left.
working, I don't think it's 12 weeks.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's like 4 or 6, but it's not 12. 12 is kind of crazy.
Yep.
Why don't they just make it 9 months so that people, if they get pregnant, they can use that?
Oh, well, hey, that could be next on the on the board.
Can you bank your 3 months a year for 4 years and then take a year off?
I don't know. No, because then you'd be double dipping.
Would you?
Well, that's what they'd call it.
Oh, right. It's not that it actually is double dipping. It's just that that's what they call it.
You're thinking too bourgeois.
The quality of Marxists these days is so low that I doubt they can even pronounce bourgeois.
Borgiois.
Jorga Borgiois.
Everyone sounds like the Swedish chef.
It's like, oh god, it's like, so remember we were talking about Paranoia Complex and the tabletop game Paranoia, right?
Yeah.
So like one of the things about that is that it like self-parodies things, like in the world of that game, what it means to be Russian is to wear funny hats and drink vodka and say borscht a lot. Or something like that. Like it has a strong parody vibe in that it looks at something and it distorts it all completely out. So like I just had this idea of Marxism in the world of Paranoia Complex, where the greatest enemy of mankind is Ernest Borgnine. It's just, we're worried about the Borgnine. We're worried about this guy.
Well, I mean, I've always been a bit worried about Ernest Borgnine myself, so I don't want to judge too harshly.
He seems to be unable to die.
Is he still alive?
I think he is.
He was like 90 in a movie I saw him in the 1980s.
Yeah, he's really old.
He's gonna start. He probably has that shaggy monster look like Bernie Sanders.
Let's not insult him.
Yeah,
I mean, okay, he did pass away. He died in 2012.
My God.
Yeah, he lived to be 95.
Communism outlived Ernest Borgnine.
Who did?
Communism.
Oh. Well, I mean, it depends on when you're making a joke about communism coming back, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, just check.
But there's always the possibility for Ernest too.
Yeah, well, I mean, modern medical technology. We just have to make sure to develop it before single payer healthcare comes into play.
Yeah.
Because then research is going to come to a halt. Unless it's subsidized.
Well, okay, so we have to clarify. Is it going to come to a halt, or is it going to come to a screeching halt?
Well, I mean, it will come to a halt. A correct modifier for how it comes to a halt will be screeching.
Yeah, so... Okay, so I'm going to try and bait you on this one again. So the plan said offer 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave.
Okay.
So you should ask me a question now.
Well, I asked you to whom already.
Oh, well, okay, so we've been following a very specific order. There's a plan, and then there's something else, and something else, and something else. So.
Well, okay, so how are they going to pay for this?
So, in the spot where the cost of the plan is depicted for everything else, this one is blank.
What do you mean blank?
It's blank.
You're taking away one quarter of the income of every company in the United States.
12 weeks of pay.
No. The number that the number that goes in that box is GDP times 0.25. That's the number that belongs in that box.
It is completely blank.
Which I think is like $4 trillion a year? Something like that?
I seriously think that someone asked Bernie how much is this going to cost, and he froze up. It was like have you ever been?
That is an excellent question. Next question. It doesn't cost anything. It's just paid leave. The government doesn't have to do anything but require it.
No, Bernie, you're not understanding. These people have to get money for not being somewhere where they would be earning money for the person that they are doing work for. So there's two different...
Little Johnny makes 100 widgets a year. Now he makes 75. What is the cost of your policy? It is 25 widgets.
Oh, yeah, it's just completely blank. It's mind-boggling.
It doesn't cost anything. We're just taking money from business owners, who we know are all evil capitalist monsters. Wow.
So the funding for this, for this thing that doesn't have a cost associated with it. Oh my God.
And how much are we charging for your free weekend?
The funding for this is... You're sure you don't have a drink on you this time?
My cup runneth empty.
Would you like a drink? You might need one after.
I may go get one. I may need something stiff and strong to
pick your poison. Because we're funding this with an additional 0.2% payroll tax.
What? 0.2%.
2%.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm not... Okay, I'm an experimental physicist, so I don't do a lot of math. But I'm pretty sure that 0.2 is less than 25.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you look at it from the perspective of someone breathing, then what you just said makes perfect sense. If you look at it from the Shaggy Monster perspective, you'll have to come back because he's frozen up again. It's like, did you ever play an old Commodore 64 game where like the disc was bad, so in the middle of it the screen went all pink and purple and just sat there? Yeah. That's what happened in his head.
I have this great image of like Bernie Sanders at a rally, and he says this, and someone asks him a question, and he just freezes up in mid gesture, and like a janitor has to come out and kick him a couple of times to get him going again, and then he just starts repeating his old loop on single payer healthcare.
Well, no. What they do now is they just, when he gets a question like that, they have a trained bird that flies down to his podium, and then he just sits there and looks at it and comments on the bird for a moment.
Oh God! So the cost is blank, and the how to pay for it is a 0.2% payroll tax increase.
Yeah. Should we get to the revenue now?
There's a revenue section?
There's no cost, but there is a revenue.
I thought the revenue was the 0.2% payroll tax.
No, that's the funding. That's where they're going to get the revenue from.
Oh, what do they think that revenue is going to be?
They think that revenue is going to be $319 billion over 10 years. So, let me put this in perspective for people who have probably already figured it out anyway, but I'm going to do this anyway. In exchange for being paid to not work 3 months out of 12,
Yeah.
we're going to concoct a scheme, a questionable scheme, that will net us, in order to pay for the entire working population to not work for 3 months out of 12.
Yeah.
We are going to raise $31.9 billion per year to fund that.
Just let's. But I. So I.
31,
Bernie Sanders doesn't know shit about economics, Deborah.
I'd be surprised if he could spell it at this point.
I don't. It's 20. The cost is GDP times 0.25. That's the cost.
Now, would you, as someone who doesn't do too much?
No. Okay. No, I'm trying to think this number through. All right. So like, total tax income of the U.S. per year is like, it's like a couple $1 trillion, right? It's like $2 trillion. And if we assume that the majority of that is middle-class payroll taxes, then we're going to say that those are people earning in the tax brackets between, not the 35% tax bracket for the most part, but like the 15, 20, 25% tax brackets. So let's say it's an average 20% of their income that they pay in income taxes, right? And we're going to raise that tax by 0.2%. So we're going to raise that's a 1% increase of their taxes from the base level. So it goes from 20 to 20.2. That's a 1% increase, right? So if they pay $2 trillion a year and we raise that by 1%, the net that we get out of that is $10 billion a year. Or $20 billion a year, not 30 and not 40 and not whatever the hell he said it was going to be.
31.9 billion a year. So
he's already 50% over what he can reasonably expect to get from a 0.2% payroll tax increase. And I'm actually overestimating that number because most people aren't, because
Did you freeze up?
I'm freezing up. It's so stupid.
Being generous and saying that he's getting the 31.9 billion, that is still an atrociously low number.
That's not GDP times 0.25.
Yeah, not even a drop in the bucket.
He must just think that, like, how does that work? Like everybody gets 12 weeks of paid leave per year.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
But does he expect that like this is one of those hidden burden things where it's like, oh yeah, everybody has that, but if you actually take it, but only certain people who are in certain positions are going to be allowed to take that, right?
Right.
So it's like we're gonna. I mean, it's horrendous. It's monstrous.
He basically walked into a science fair and said, "I have an artificially intelligent robot that can perform human motor functions."
Yeah.
And then he set down a block of concrete on a table.
No, he didn't just set it down. He slammed it down triumphantly.
And it cracked a little.
It cracked a little, yes. Some dust comes out of it.
Well, I mean, 0.2% of the dust comes out of it.
Yes. That's all he needs. He does understand that wages. This is the thing. It's like, well, wages is just a number that the business owner thinks is what you earned, but like that's not how wages actually work. Wages are determined by your discounted marginal value product, and that number is something that business owners can figure out. And even if it weren't, they would compete with each other, and the ones who go too low would go out of business, and the ones who go too high would lose employees. And so even if the business owners couldn't figure out how much you're making of stuff for them, they still would have a mechanism in the free market to determine how much pay is too much and how much is too little. Like you don't even need to be able to calculate it for this to actually work. It's actually still a force that occurs in the economy, because if a business owner consistently pays his employees more than their discounted marginal value product, he goes out of business.
Yeah.
And if a business owner pays them less than that, then they get headhunted to people who will pay them more and still remain profitable. You don't even need, the business owner doesn't even need to do math to do this. He's just like, am I in the red or am I in the black? Are other business owners doing similar things or paying more or paying less? Are all of my skilled people being headhunted by other people who will pay them more? And they're not going out of business, so this must be okay for them. You don't even have to do math. It's literally not even math.
Well, the thing is, okay, so you and I, years after we graduated high school, we still had to read to understand this.
But that's not. That's because this information was actively hidden from us throughout our public school career.
Yes, which, try convincing anyone of that while they're singing the praises of public school. But the thing is,
the level of intellectual curiosity of the teachers in our high school and middle school, in our high school was pretty damned low, and in middle school was even less. And in elementary school, it was even less than that. Like this is the thing that was so mind blowing when I finally discovered Rothbard, was that like when I was in high school, we were reading a book on American history, and they were like, and then Jefferson had this idea of only being able to swing your fist until it just barely doesn't hit someone's nose, but then everybody doesn't think that's a good thing anymore, so blah. And like I was like, well, wait a minute, that actually seems like it might have some meat to it. And I asked the teacher, I said, has anyone looked deeper into this idea, from a philosophical perspective? And the American history teacher's answer was, I don't know. And they didn't have any books in the library. And, how do you look that up before the internet? You can't, right? There's just, you either spend thousands of hours in a library hoping to... I did spend hours and hours in libraries looking through books on ethics and like, I was reading fucking Spinoza, and I'm like, none of this does that. Who does this? And then I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. If no one has done this work, someday I'm gonna have to sit down and do it. What would I call that book? I'll call it The Ethics of Liberty. And then I type, and then like in grad school, I'm like, I never really actually did do that work, and I really should think about it. And then it dawned on me, like, wait a minute. If I would name that book The Ethics of Liberty, maybe someone else would name a book called The Ethics of Liberty. And I typed in Ethics of Liberty into the computer search thing for the library, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a book by Rothbard. And I'm like, who is Rothbard? And that was basically all she wrote. I went to the law, and it was horrible, because the only copy of that book that the university had was in the special law library, where you had to get a special membership to get into and rent and borrow out their books. So I had to go through additional red tape to get to that book. But I did it. And it's like, oh, someone did do this work. I knew someone must have done this work. Why didn't anyone know who did this work? Oh,
and if you had not found that book, I probably would have spent the next 10 years wandering around wondering why I thought the whole world was out of their minds. Like every day before you introduced me to that.
Yeah.
Every single day. It was like, oh, this person's saying something that has no logical merit to it. I can break down the logic of this in like 5 steps and the argument's destroyed, but it's something that everyone believes. Yeah. I know there's nothing wrong with me, so the whole world is crazy. I would have never known that there were other people out there that thought that way if you had not introduced me to Mises and Rothbard.
And you I mean...
Never. It never would have happened. I would have been alone forever.
But it's like... It's so stupid because it's like...
It's elementary logic. It's elementary.
It's not just that it's elementary logic. It's that you have a history book. And in that book you describe a philosophy. And you describe one person, you say the name of one person, Thomas Jefferson, who kind of thought that way. And then you dismiss that philosophy without really any logical reason. You just say, oh, people don't think that anymore. Which is a bullshit argument. And then you provide no further information. And then the teachers also don't have any further information. Because intellectual curiosity has been bred out of them to such a degree that they read this line in a history book, and it doesn't occur to them that it's flippant and glib and horrendous. Like, there's like, oh yeah, that's what the book says.
Well, yeah, I mean, they went to the same schools we did.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it's no surprise there.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that.
Well, no, you're not. I know you're not shocked by it, but
I'm not surprised. But I am appalled.
Yes, it's appalling.
Yes, appalling is probably the right word.
I'm appalled. I'm making a Yes Minister reference.
I'm not. I'm literally appalled.
Well, it's kind of the same. I mean, okay, so we're halfway through this list. And the thing about it is, it's like everyone is singing the praises of this list, and they're like, "Oh yeah, these are all really good ideas," and people are like, people are saying things like, "Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. This is great. This will be great. Why don't we do this? We should do this. Let's vote for this guy." I mean, here's the plan we need, and we have literally demolished every single point, and we've only got a couple more to go. We're going to demolish those too.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be hard.
Neither of us are economists.
No, I mean, we're not, but, I mean, being that's the thing, is that, I think that a lot of the people that we listen to in economics would make a similar argument. They would say, well, this is what happens when you create a a pro-mathematics bias in economics, and when you ignore simple logic and consistency, which you can't do calculations with simple logic and consistency, but you can get quite a ways. Like, I needed math to come up with that $300 billion number a little while ago. The fact that it turned out to be right is hilarious. But then, we've also been able to look at some of these planks just from a purely logical perspective and say, well, there's something directly contradictory here. Like the last one. 1/4 of the year paid vacation, no cost. There's clearly a contradiction here. Even if I can't do the math to say, no, the cost is 0.25 of GDP, you can still say there's a contradiction here.
Yeah, and that kind of, I mean, that's the point I was getting around to is, people are singing the praises of this, and they aren't, they look at it, it's a candidate that they wanted to support already. They're already biased towards supporting this candidate.
Yes, of course they are.
And then they look at his plan, and they're like, and all that really happens in their head is they glance it over, say, well, he's showing a plan, he's saying how much it costs, and he's saying how he's going to fund it. So they look it over and they're like, great, this is a guy that has a great plan, but they don't actually read it. They don't, or they read the words, but they don't.
I mean, this is I mean, you have to remember that out of the class of, let's go back to high school again, right? Yeah, at least let's think back there. I don't want to ever go back there.
I'm not going back there.
remember that of the, how many people were in that class that read that same line in that same stupid fucking history book, right? 150, 200, something like that? 200 people. And I'm the only one that stands up and says, well, wait a minute. This seems kind of flippant and glib. is there anyone that's actually looked at this liberty philosophy thing? No one else did. Everybody else was like, oh, that's what the book says. So again, the level of intellectual curiosity of the average person is mind-numbingly low.
Yeah, to the point where they can't even take not even two-step logic. Like, they didn't take one logical step when reading this.
It's not even a logical step. It's just a formal logic is fairly hard. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's easy. It's not.
Yeah,
incredibly hard.
But this isn't.
But
this
formal
isn't
logic
formal
is not.
logic.
Formal logic is not. It's very common for people to get caught up in rhetorical flourish rather than formal logic, right? That's something that can happen. People can be deceived.
Yes.
But to look at a plan and have no intellectual curiosity as to determine whether any of the figures in it are real is a separate and also crippling problem.
Well, not just that. Not just looking at the plan and having no curiosity. It's looking at the plan and having no curiosity, and then voting for someone who you are giving significant control over the lives of millions to. And I mean, it's how are people not? Everyone is throwing up their arms about, oh, there's someone rich somewhere else, and I'm not rich, and I should hate this person. And they will fight tooth and nail to find every reason to hate that person.
Well, yeah,
but when
it's
it comes,
envy is the basis of all socialism. I mean,
yeah,
that's what it is.
But when it comes to handing an idiot power,
well, no, but I mean, it's the, this is the other common mistake that socialists make, is that they assume that the person in charge, that they will be, or that they will be the friend of the person in charge, right? So this is what happened to Trotsky, right? Trotsky was a fervent communist. He disagreed with Lenin, and because Lenin won, he was forced into exile and then killed, right? This is what happens to, I mean, when you have a monolithic and totalitarian philosophy, you can't broach any sort of disagreement. And so very small disagreements become very dangerous things, right? So, if you and me disagree about the exact, where exactly the line stands between, someone who's being supported by the government and someone who's, if we have some kind of disagreement about this kind of stuff, we can argue with logic and even use some rhetoric sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And we can recognize what parts are logic and what parts are rhetoric, and we can attack them both in their own right? Like I can attack something rhetorically, and you can come up with a rhetorical retort, or you can come up with a logical retort. I mean, it works both ways, but
yeah.
Depends on how you want to run it, right? But if since neither of us is interested in controlling the lives of these millions of people, right? So, if you want to go hot air ballooning and I want to drive a motorcycle, that, there's no reason for us to fight over that, right? But if part of your philosophy is that everyone must drive a hot air balloon, and then I say, but you can't drive a hot air balloon, you fly a hot air balloon, and then I get 9 grams in the back of the head. Like, I might not even be disagreeing about flying hot air balloons. I might just be disagreeing about which word you use to describe as the verb for what you do in a hot air balloon. And you can't broach that, because to do that is to show that there's some things that your totalitarian philosophy isn't totalitarian over, which means that there's some place for someone to stick a wedge in and take power from you, and you can't allow that once you're in power, if you're a totalitarian.
You need to check your totalitarian privilege.
Does that work? I'm not sure that works.
I still haven't figured out what people mean by that half the time. It seems to mean something different every time they say it.
Well, I mean,
but I think it ultimately means I'm wrong and I'm right and you're wrong.
Well,
I think that's what it
means. It means I'm right and you're wrong because of the color of my skin or which genitalia I have. That's what it means, generally speaking. But the problem is that all of this social justice stuff stems from Marxism, right?
Yeah.
Marxism became cultural Marxism, became this whatever it is that they claim they do, right? And part of the problem with that is that Marxism was about class, about economic class, especially, right?
Yeah.
And so what these people want to do is they want to use Marxist arguments, but they also want to not have to worry about economic class. They want to collectivize people based on the traits that they're interested in collectivizing them on, and ignore the things that they don't want to collectivize them on. So, to suggest that a homeless white man has more privilege than Hillary Clinton is absurd. But what they do is they collectivize. They say, well, he's part of the white man chunk. So, on average, he has more privilege than someone in the white woman chunk because man better than woman. And they say incredibly sexist things like that without even realizing that what they're doing is incredibly sexist. And then when you argue with them, when you point out to them that that's sexist, they redefine sexism and don't realize that the ability to redefine words in an argument is a privilege. It's troublesome. Like it's to the point where I don't interact with these people. I
try my best.
I try not to talk to them because they're monsters. But if I were talking to them, and I said, well, such and such is sexist. They said, well, sexism is only men can be sexist against women. I would say, oh, thank you for saying that, because if you can define words in whatever way you want, I have just defined that sentence that you said to be a complete concession of the argument to me. Thank you. and it has exactly the same level of logical
you
kind
of have to do that. You have to use the same level of logic when people are being, I want to say obtuse, but obtuse takes a bit of intellect.
Obtuse is the wrong thing. Obtuse is ignorant. It is an inability to comprehend something. They know exactly what they're doing and what they're trying to do, and what they're trying to do is get power over you.
Yeah, which is surprising when people try to do that to me, because frankly, I can throw a truck.
Well, it's not about physical power. It's about political power, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and your ability to throw a truck is going to be very useful in the gulags, right?
Oh, well, it will. Until I'm so sick and scurvied that I can't work anymore.
Right, exactly.
And then they shoot me.
Right. That's how it goes.
Yeah, it's it's vexing, and you're absolutely right. It's the formula you have to use is to bring around their base logic with a form of your own that copies theirs. You have to mimic theirs, so that their only choice is to either admit they're wrong or admit that what they said was stupid. Because if they call what you say stupid, then it's the same thing.
Well, sometimes they're not even that logical, right?
Well, they're not being logical about it.
I know that they're not being.
They don't care if they're illogical.
Yeah.
They care about being right, whether or not they're right.
Right.
You're right. It's political power over the other person in the argument.
Right. That's all it is.
Yeah, I've given up basically on presenting the logic of something to people and hoping that they'll actually, because they never think about what you say. They never.
No, they don't. It's all canned responses and set phrases. There's not.
Basically, what I do now is I either set people up and trap them, or I use similar like I've done it before, where I'll say something. People will be talking about riots or something, and then I'll say something and I'll use a specific type of talking in the way that I'll say something. So it's like that person will then turn around and say something to me along the lines of, that's pretty racist of you to say that a black person would think like that. And then I'll say, well, I didn't actually say it was a black person. I just used words that you're associating in your head with a black person, so you're the racist.
Yeah. That's a good redirect. It is a good. It's a good rhetorical flourish, but it is a rhetorical flourish.
It's sometimes flourish is all you have left.
So, well, that's
when
their job is to destroy logic and definitions. Rhetorical flourish really is all you have left.
Yeah, because no matter what logic you use at that point, it doesn't matter. It's
if they can define words however they want, it doesn't matter how logical your argument is with your definitions.
Yeah, and even if your definitions are right, then it's a case of your definitions
are never right because you're white.
Yeah. Well, that was the point I was going to make. It's like even if you are right, it's only because of your privilege.
Well, no, the reason that you're not right is because of your privilege. You see, the fact that you're privileged means that you're wrong about everything.
Yeah, well,
Figure that one out.
Rather, anything you say is a
wrong.
result of your
Yeah.
privilege and therefore wrong.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Even if it sounds right to you, that's the point I'm trying to get across. They always talk in those terms where, okay, what you're saying may sound right to you, but it's because you're white that you think that's right.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
That's what they say.
Sure.
Well, I guess we should hurry up and finish these points.
Sure, I guess so. I was supposed to be in bed 20 minutes ago. Let's keep going.
Yeah, we can burn through these. I can get it all together in editing.
Oh no, it's fine. This is much better for my overall ability to cope with the world than sleep. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
We are on Keep Our Pension Promises Act. Wow.
So he's already pledged to hold up one Ponzi scheme. So I guess why not two Ponzi schemes?
Yeah, so you want to hear what he thinks the cost of this is?
Oh, yeah, I do.
$29 billion.
Over how many years?
I was hoping you would ask that. Over 10 years.
What?
$2.9 billion a year.
$3 billion a year
for our pension liabilities.
All America's pension liabilities.
Yes.
I
mean, well, no. I mean, even being charitable and saying that he's just talking about federal pension promises, that's still a very, very, very low number.
Well, I mean, those pension promises per person or what? I mean, $40,000, $50,000 a year.
It's a pretty high amount.
Something like that. And then how many people are on these pensions? I mean, geez. I mean, those numbers might add up for a couple of years, but like, the problem is that exponentials don't stay manageable over time, right?
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't increase linearly. This increases faster than that, much faster.
So he's planning on paying this by, oh God. So a moment ago you mentioned estate taxes losing money.
Yes.
He's planning on paying this by closing tax loopholes on estate taxes and artwork.
So I'm just gonna. Okay, so loopholes in the estate tax. What does that mean? I wonder. I kind of know what it means, and what it means is that now everybody pays the estate tax.
Yeah,
somehow.
That's. If I'm remembering correctly, that's exactly what it means. Is there were ways where you could, there might be a part of his plan that is specifically referring to trusts being used to hold estates.
Sure,
I suspect that.
I mean, because it's
I don't know. I don't know.
Way better. It's way better when the founder of business dies to close the business than to keep it running, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, clearly. I mean, no, that's what that means, right? I mean, you know what the estate tax numbers.
Well, I mean,
it's
what it means in practice.
Yeah, in practice, it means you can't give your business to your kid.
Yeah.
Assuming he wants it or she wants it, right? I mean, you can't even give a house to your kid. If the estate tax quote unquote loopholes are removed, when you die, the house you live in must be sold, basically.
We should just dive. By the way, the revenue he expects to get from that is an exact match, $29 billion over 10 years. But we should dive right into the next one. Because
okay, let's dive in.
Of all the things to follow up that last plank with, the next plan is the Responsible Estate Tax Act.
What?
I'm not sure what.
He has 9 planks and 2 of them are about the estate tax?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And the best part is all the people singing his praises. It's like, well, this is you. This is what you're going to have to deal with. But they don't think of themselves in these terms. They think of, there's a rich guy that's got a house.
They're never going to die.
Yeah. And if they think they're going to roll any of that back after he's gone as president,
they're going to get government health care and they'll never die.
Yeah. So there's no cost associated with that. The funding for it is the progressive estate tax on inheritances over $3.5 million, Also, it closes estate tax loopholes, which they said the last plan did, so they're kind of mixing their funding here.
Okay, I hate to say this, but you're cutting out again. Skype doesn't like calls that last more than 50 minutes, which is complete bullshit.
I'm getting you clearly now. You were breaking up for a second.
Yeah, we can just restart it if you want.
All right. No, that's a danger that we face with Skype. If only the government would step in and
Maybe what we need is an internet tax.
yeah, to make the internet better. If they taxed it and then spent that money to make it better.
That's what we'll call it. We'll call it the Make the Internet Better Act.
Yeah, it rolls right off the tongue.
We'll put a maximum price on bandwidth, and we'll also put a maximum price on service, and then we'll require that all of the infrastructure in the U.S. be rebuilt to a single standard.
We can call it the Bernie Baud standard.
Yeah, because you only get one.
Okay,
You will have to hold a telephone to your face and make a beep or a boop every second, and that will be your baud.
And we'll fund it by
Closing another estate loophole tax.
we'll close a tax loophole somewhere. We will close a loophole. That's how we'll fund it.
Yeah.
$10 billion a year. All right, so the Responsible Estate Tax Act, it's a progressive estate tax on inheritances over $3.5 million and closes estate tax loopholes.
Which
now,
there are almost none.
yeah, the thing is, the last plan was going to raise money by closing estate tax loopholes, so this plan is double dipping with the last one, so the figures probably aren't correct. The figures they came up with, because they're already taking money once from the same thing, so the figures can't be correct.
They're, what you're saying is that they're double dipping.
Yeah, they're double dipping, and the best part about it is that
it's okay when the government does it, though.
So somehow closing tax loopholes on estate taxes and artwork raises $29 billion over 10 years. But having a progressive estate tax on inheritances over $3.5 million and closing estate tax loopholes raises $214 billion over 10 years. And there's apparently no crossover there.
Wait. So the first, I'm sorry, but the first one is 20-some billion per year or over 10 years?
Over 10 years.
So what he's saying is he's going to get 10 times more with these other loopholes that he's going to get rid of?
Yeah. And a progressive estate tax, which is basically the same thing.
But the estate tax is already massively progressive.
It's never progressive enough. You have to keep progressing. Progress never ends. Forward.
But we already know that people can change their behaviors to get rid of this estate tax, like by gifting things to people while they're still alive, or like the reverse mortgage. Everyone needs reverse mortgages.
Maybe those are the loopholes they're talking about closing.
It's
a possibility.
But that's not a loophole. That's you selling your house and living in it for a little while.
They could be calling it a loophole.
A loophole is just something they don't want you to do.
Listen, when they raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, they're going to follow it up with a law that says you can't fire anyone.
Yikes. Because that will work well.
All right. Let's move on here. Let's go to the next. Two to go.
Yeah, let's
two to
move
go.
on.
End Polluter Welfare Act.
Okay.
This one is going to cost $110 billion over 10 years, so about $11 billion a year, and it ends tax breaks and subsidies for fossil fuel companies.
Okay.
Do you want to take the floor on this one?
Well, I mean, ending subsidies is not in itself a bad thing, right?
Right.
Now, doing that specifically for a specific set of companies has other problems that it causes, like America, land of home of the brave, land of the rolling blackout.
Yeah, or maybe to put it another way, this is Bernie Sanders reaching a hand out to solar companies, which he I'm sure that there's a plan.
He's going to subsidize solar companies.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I mean,
it's just it's one thing to take a stand against subsidies, and it's another thing to take to say, oh, these subsidies aren't going to the right place. We need to send them somewhere less efficient.
Do you think if anyone asks Bernie Sanders if he would subsidize solar energy that he's going to say no.
Well, I mean, he's Bernie Sanders. I assume he's going to subsidize solar power.
Yeah.
It's kind of a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just... I mean, this is just me, throwing it out there. This is... I won't even call it an educated guess. I'll just call it a guess that part of the idea of ending subsidies for fossil fuels is that directly helps other energy sources that, not to put too fine a point on it, suck. And that really has nothing to do with whether or not this plan works, but I felt it was worth saying. Let's see, so this is going to bring in $135 billion over 10 years.
Tell you what, give me a second. Where are you finding these Bernie planks?
I'll send it to you.
All right, I've got it. I can see them.
Okay. So we're on the last two. And, I guess we're on the last one now. We've got the Medicare for All healthcare plan is the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just single-payer healthcare. We know that that's going to cost a lot more than it actually says it's going to cost.
Yeah, a whole lot more.
Wait a minute, though. Is that $1.38 trillion in addition to what we're already paying for healthcare?
Yes. Well, no, it's for that specifically. That's how much he thinks it's going to cost. So it'll be in addition to anything else that isn't that.
That's wonderful.
But read the funding for this one.
Oh, he's going to adjust the state tax some more.
Yeah.
Capital gains and dividends, the same as income from work. Wait, aren't they already, pretty much?
Yeah, all of these things have pretty much been said in other parts of his plan.
I mean, we need to have a talk about the capital gains tax sometime, because this is such a stupid, fallacious argument that people use all the time. It's just nuts, and we need to destroy that stupid thing. It's stupid.